Okay, greetings everyone. Welcome to Gerard, Black in the Philippines with the truth. I want to thank you for stopping by my channel. I want to thank all my subscribers, my future subscribers, my hanger-oners, my haters. I want to thank all of you, but each one of you are important to me. And don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, share, and a like. Now, as you can judge by the topic of this, uh, it's Paul, Old Dog New Tricks, a pull up from Gerard. And I had no intentions of doing this video or even speaking further on this topic, uh, you know, um, because I think I did something yesterday or something like that called Foreign or Prejudice or something like that or whatever. And one of my commenters pointed out to me, he said, "Hey, Gerard, Paul did a video about, you know, um, racism in the Philippines or racism in America. In fact, here, this is what it is. As you can see, it says white man's burden. so as if they have one. Okay. Well, no, I don't want to say that, but I'm sure they do. Especially if you're in the Okies, if you're Okie from the Stokey. But before I get started, um, let me put up my family dynamics. This is my family. My brother, I blotted out his face because, him and I had an understanding about my blog. This is my niece, my oldest brother, my mother, and her husband, who was Italian, matter of fact, who used to live next door to Joe Valachi and was offered to drive, and he turned it down and decided not to get involved in the mob, but went to Ford Motor Company and became an engineer, and et cetera, et cetera. Uh, he provided a stable home for an outrageous black woman. We'll leave it out there. And to give you even more of a further examination of my family, as I said, this is my oldest brother. He is 5 years older than I am. And when he was in junior high school or high school or whatever it was, he learned words like darky and blackie. And he used to come home and beat my ass, calling me those words. I remember being huddled under the bathroom sink like this while he was stomping me. At a young age, he pushed in the cigarette lighter in the car. Those cigarette lighters that you hold in and get nice red, cherry red and all that stuff. Well, he took it out and he put it to my lips. So when I say racism is a learned behavior, I mean it. I don't think he would have done those things if he didn't go to school and found out that black people were someone that he was supposed to dislike. And it tore him apart that he had brothers that were black. My father, who was white, or who I thought was white, in North Carolina, him and my mother used to get pulled over a lot because they were a black and white couple. And they used to get harassed so much that they moved from North Carolina north. They were the first of that clan, of the McCoy clan, to move north and later on bringing their siblings with them or joining them. Now, I grew up in the South. I grew up before there was integration, which means I went to an all-black school. And I went to school the first year they integrated, when blacks and whites started going to school together. And it was crazy because I used to run from the blacks because I was from the North. And I used to run from the whites because I was black. And at a very early age, I learned that people can dislike you for things that you have no control over. You have no control over where you were born. You have no control over the color of your skin. And yet, people can hate you for things such as that. Yes, I picked cotton. I cropped tobacco. I worked in the hot sun. I worked hogs. I picked cucumbers. I plowed behind a mule. I did all that stuff because I was in the South, and that's what you did. Now, let's talk about Paul's video. Paul had a guest on there. I don't know his name. His picture of the video, I put it up there. You can go to it and find out who he is. And he was married to a black woman, I think most of what, 30 years or something like that. He was a correction officer, which, being a correction officer is tough in prison. It doesn't matter where you are. And there are places that white people only exposure to blacks is in prison, as correction officers, especially in upstate New York, places like that. But he asked a question, you know, who is more racist, black people or white people? We're talking about in America, so, we're not talking about, religious or, whatever it is, the Sikhs and Shiites and all that stuff like that. That's a different type of racism. And, in my opinion, and only my opinion, blacks are hotwired. Hotwired. You know what hotwired is. For those of you who don't know, if you see a strange dog and the dog's never seen you, and you bend down and pick up a rock, and the dog instinctively turns and runs, although it may never have a stone thrown at it, but it's hotwired. It's conditioned over millions of years of back in the day and cavemen when that was their defense against dogs, whether to bend down, throw something. So it's hotwired into dogs now that when you bend down and to emulate picking up something, they turn and run. So blacks are hotwired, to be and feel inferior to whites. Why? It's obvious because slavery, whites were. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why blacks call white men the man. Yeah, that's the man. That's the man. Because that man, once upon a time, was the slave owner on a plantation, whereas that there was a man in that house who was making all your decisions. There was a man in that house who was telling you what to do, who you can marry, who you can have children with, who were going to be able to have children, or who lived and died. There was a man who made that decision, So that's why he was known as the man, the man, So as blacks migrated from the South and went up north and tried to seek their fame and fortune or try to assimilate into a culture that was supposed to be integrated, you came confronted with the man. The man then became like the government. The man then became the boss. The man took on a different perception. It was the man who was holding you back from things. It was the man who wasn't allowing you to have the things that you wanted to have. And oh man, I don't know who that is. But anyway, so the black man who was forced, who to take menial jobs and things like this and be treated. I mean, a lot of them worked on a railroad, from north to south, going like this, and they worked as shoe shine boys. They worked as and looked at as boy, hey boy. So he had no place in his life where he actually felt control over anything because he was always being told what to do and like this and he couldn't make his own decisions. His decisions were made for him. So he goes home. He goes home to a wife, to a place that whereas that he feels that he has control. But he's so angry that when he goes home, that he takes it out on his wife. He takes it out on his kids because he has to feel that there's something in his universe that he has control over. Let me ask you this: who is the most racist, blacks or whites? I think the question is, who has the most right to be racist, black or white? Another question came out about when blacks talked about amongst themselves. They like to blame, it's the white man, it's this, that, like this, like that. I never liked that. I never fell into that because I said, I used to run for blacks and whites like this. So I never was accepted as a black man. I didn't shoot the jive. I didn't shoot the woolly bobo or nothing like this. So, whenever I was around, often the time, whatever conversation they were talking about, it ceased or conversation I was privy about, it was always negative. It was always about who they were going to rob or who got robbed or who they got over on or who they're going to get over on, and it always perplexed me why blacks did not talk about personal things, what was going on in their life, about their grandmother. Is your grandfather okay? I heard you had a baby. How's she doing? We never got to that point where that we felt comfortable, not only amongst ourselves, but in our lives, that we can talk about internal things because we were so much being bombarded by the things that were happening outside. When I was in the job market and I'm a black and white lab technician, I was primo, and I used to put in applications at labs, and I put an application in, and because something told me that something wasn't right with this interview, so what I did was I waited about 15 minutes, and I went back in and I asked them. I said, "Oh, there's something I left out on my application. Can I have it back so I can add it?" They said, "Oh, no, it's okay." I said, "No, it's important. I'm going to put it on my application. Can I have my application, please?" And they looked on the desk, and guess where my application was? My application was in the garbage. They had threw my application in the garbage probably before I walked out of the door. You know why? It couldn't have been because of my skills. It couldn't have been because of my resume. It couldn't have been because of that. So the only conclusion I could have was because I'm black. So who's more racist? Now, they spoke about, about blacks having good jobs and blacks having housing, blacks having nice cars and stuff like this. And, there's no reason for them to complain because they are, living the American dream. But you don't see that them achieving those things is not from the same playing field. We used to always think that if a black had a good job, he had to do twice as much or three times as much as his white counterpart to be able to have that job. You understand? Because that's how we felt. Because you were never going to get that job based on your ability or be equal with somebody else. You had to be better. You had to be a lot more qualified, or a lot more educated, and usually are than the person who is over you. You know what I'm saying? Now that's so them achieving some of the materialistic things that they achieved, is no acknowledgement that we're on the same playing field as before. In one part of his interview, Paul says, "I'm tired of being blamed as a white man for what happened to blacks during slavery. I'm tired of having that like burden of feeling that I was responsible." No, Paul. No, Paul. You're not responsible. We all know that, you know. And from my heart, I am sorry that you are made to believe that we blame you for the things that what's happened to black people to how they are today. But we do blame you for allowing it to continue. We do blame you for the prejudice in the job market. We do blame you for the depricing of a black home compared to a white home because you want to take away their personal wealth. You know what I'm saying? We blame you for things that what are still happening today that are off the piggybacks of slavery. You know that still exists today. You know, it's not fair hey, you know what? I watched a politician one time talk about, when he was coming up, he was in an organization that traveled. They went overseas and all that stuff. Yes, I remember those organizations. They were called PAL, Police Auxiliary League. You know, PA, YMCA. You know, uh, Job Corps, you know, these are organizations that gave a young man or young lady an opportunity to 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 be given the world, to be able to travel and see the world. But those programs don't exist anymore in inner cities. Those programs don't exist anymore. They defunded them. They cut them out. They stopped them. They stopped wanting to do anything to elevate the plight of the underclass because they wanted to keep you dumb. They wanted to keep you at home. They didn't want you to see the world. Why is that? Why? Because it fits their narrative of of wanting to, keep you in your place. You follow what I'm saying? And then, of course, it went on to police shootings. How come more whites are being shot by police, but we don't hear about it than black people? Of course you don't hear about it because that's not the narrative they want to put out there. They want to put the boogeyman is coming to get you. Like this. You know, you know, and let the truth be told. If there was not a video camera on Rodney King getting his ass whooped, do you think anyone would have heard about it? You think anyone would have cared? You think that there would have been an outrage like there was? Hell no. Hell no. But you see, but it continues going on. The shootings, the shootings of unarmed black men. Why is it a police officer can be on the force for 30, 40 years and never pull his gun? But yet and still you got police officers who come out of the academy are shooting motherfuckers left and right. Why? Because they feel that it's their privilege. This is what they are put here to do to control the animals. That's why you have police officers from Long Island and all this stuff. And whenever they go on patrol, it used to be say, where do you patrol? I patrol in the jungle, in Harlem, Spanish Harlem. I patrol in the jungle because that's the mentality of them. That's how they viewed other human beings as animals because we're animals that in the jungle. And there's someone talking about, how come, there was a march about the 14-year-old boy who rung the wrong doorbell and was gunned down, who was shot by an old white man who mind you, listens to Fox News all day. The main, perpetuants of racism, hatred, and they fired Tucker Carlson. So who was one of the main promoters of this? And then the question is, why was there not a march? Why was there a march for him, and was not a march for the white girl who was shot, God bless her, in the driveway, or a march for the other white girl who was shot in the supermarket mall, who went to the wrong car? Why wasn't there a march on them? Well, there is a difference between gunning down a child, number one, you know, than gunning down, mistaken identities, you know. For whatever reason, that homeowner felt that he was in threat of someone else, and this is part of that white fear that Roland Martin talks about all the time. It's the white fear that's out there, that they're feared not only from blacks but from each other now, and this is what it's morphing into. That now they're afraid of each other. You know what I'm saying? And so the chickens come home to roost. Yes, when they start shooting white girls, you know. And what has come out of all this? Body cam. If it wasn't for body cam, we would not know the level or see, the rights of others being stripped away by a bullet, being shot in the back, or because of a traffic infraction, missing taillights. That should never end up in somebody being killed. Are you kidding me? You know what I'm saying? Or someone in the car, refusing to get out, and you shoot them, 9 times in the back? Or Amadou Diallo, reaching for his wallet, by some special unit in New York, who the Goon Squad, who he was trying to get his key and said, no, here's my wallet, and get shot 49 times. I am one who believes that you comply. When a police officer asks you for your driver's license, if you have it, give it to him. If you don't have it, say, officer, I don't have a driver's license. Okay, get out of the car, you're going to go to jail. Simple. Yeah, we being spoon-fed a lot of this. You have a right. This is my right. I'm not to show you nothing. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. But you have a right to go home to your loved ones and live, so just comply. When I get pulled over, the first thing I do is I put one arm on the window and the other arm on the seat. And I freeze just like that. Because not only for my safety, but for the officer's safety. I want him to know that I am not a threat. And when he comes over and talks to me, yes, officer. Oh, yes, I have a license. I have insurance. Oh, yes, I get it for you. Like this. It's so simple. It's so simple. But anyway, often the time, I think, okay, if you don't want to go to jail and you got warrants or you got like this or whatever, it's better than being shot, but it's not here or there. It happens, but a lot of times, black man, it's better to just comply. You know, Russians have an expression, don't poke the bear. Or bring it more home, don't poke the shit. So that stink and the bear ate your ass up, Or let sleeping dogs lie. You don't give them a reason, to attack. Now, you wonder why they didn't march and protest. There's an organization called Now. It's the National Organization of Women. It's one of the biggest women's protection organization there is. And that they are out there to look after women, for women's rights, whatever that they're doing. But you don't hear from them. You didn't hear from them running to Tamir Rice, I think it was, who was shot in a bedroom by no-knock warrant at the wrong house. You don't hear them speak out about the black woman who was pulled over and who had an episode, from being arrested and ended up dead in jail. You don't hear an outcry for them when they are misused and abused and wrongly treated by this national organization that's supposed to look out for the rights of women. You know, the one thing about two things came out the civil rights movement. I'm going to tell you now that when it came out the civil rights was intended for blacks to have the rights and equal as whites do. But somehow along the line, they started thinking, okay, we'll also add women. Okay, we'll also add Hispanics. We'll also add gays. We'll also add Asians. We'll also add this. And all this became a whole hodgepodge. And the true focus of what it was intended for missed the target. Except for one point. They made it illegal, or they made it they made it unattractive for a white man to call a black man nigger to his face. It stopped. White men no longer call niggers to their face then. But now, today, because of the political climate, a lot of them getting emboldened, and a lot of them are getting their ass whipped. But anyway, it's the gays, the Jews will not replace us, all this stuff like this, it's that's what happened. That's what came out of the civil rights struggle. And one thing I'm going to point out in Paul's video, it was uncalled for him to say that Reverend Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson are nothing more than not ambulance chasers, but they're after the money. That was so uncalled for, because nothing can be more further than the truth. Jesse Jackson, who was I think head of the Rainbow Coalition, boycotted. They boycotted Buffalo Wings Chicken. They boycotted, I think, Pepsi. They boycotted corporations to ask the question, just like Martin Luther King did with busing, and Rosa Parks sitting down, is that there's no diversity in your workplace. There are no blacks working in these places that a large majority of your annual profits come from black people. But yet and still, they're not good enough to work in your establishment. Not good enough. So Jesse Jackson, got a lot of his wings, a lot of his medals, for him, forcing on. Some call it extortion, some call it this. They didn't want to boycott. They didn't want to lose that money, that cheddar. So they said, okay, Jesse, we'll make sure that we have, black CEOs or black executives on our board, so to make sure, to give them, a seat at the table. Okay. So Jesse was good. Reverend Al Sharpton, who I was, in full disclosure, that I was the editor of his newsletter each week for almost 2 years. I was one of his personal photographers, And I know for a fact that Reverend Al did not go nowhere unless he was asked. It wasn't him running and just jumping on the bandwagon. When that phone rings and something's happened, and the first thing that comes to mind, get Reverend Al on the phone and call Reverend Al, and Al, and Rev says, okay, yeah, okay, I will be there. You know, not only that, but a lot of you don't know that when a family is in crisis, he employs members of the family and provide them with the income until the case settles or until some type of outcome happens, to help the family to sustain. A lot of you don't know that. And yes, Bensonhurst, where he got stabbed marching because Yusef Hawkins, I think his name was, or someone, a black man went to see a white girl, and they decided to run him out of Bensonhurst. And they ran him into the street and he was killed. Because why? Because of racism. They don't want to see black men in their neighborhood, least of all seeing him dating one of their white girls. And he went there to protest and was stabbed for it. So when you talk about, those two, you're talking about those two who brought about change, in the justice system, who drew light to the, the injustice of what was happening in the black community. The Central Park Five, who I personally know, Corey Wise, who was the one who was held in jail the longest for the rape of a white girl in Central Park, who later was proven innocent, after spending 13 years in prison. And your president, Donald Trump, still says, hang him, because they had to do something wrong. I will not apologize. I mean, the insanity of it all, man. The insanity. And one last thing before I go. And I know this is kind of long, but I feel it needed to be spoken. Paul, I replied to your invitation to be on your show. Maybe you may not want to after you hear my take on your video. But one last thing. Do you think it's fair? No, two things. We talked about police, prison. Why are blacks a greater number in prison than whites, and only 13% of the population? Mostly because blacks go to jail a lot more often than their white counterparts. Oftentimes, a white officer will let a white driver continue on his way in his journey and arrest a black man, for the same thing. And it's unfortunate, it's unfair, it's not right, and they point out that white women are less prone to go to jail than white men and black men. What is the answer? Maybe the answer is, when we live in a society that recognizes that you've been bleeding the black communities virtually dry of their resources, of their wealth, and not reinvest it in the black communities. You'd rather put it in other communities. When things change, it's so easy to say, right? When things change. I was born by the river in a little small tent. And just like the river, I've been running ever since. Took a long time, but change is gonna come. Change is coming. And that's why you're gonna see more and more crazy things. Because the power would be recognized that in 20 years or 30 years, America is gonna be all majority, you know, immigrants, people non-white, you know, and they're trying to set in place now through votes, judges, lawyers, whatever, a mechanism that will keep them in charge, regardless. What was it that Malcolm X said? And I'm paraphrasing. It might have been Malcolm X or Martin Luther King. He says, there is something wrong with a society when the majority has, when the minority has control. You understand? And that's where we're leading to. How do we change it? Elect better people. I don't know. It's on a course for whatever's going to happen. All I know is that I'm in the Philippines, and a lot of stuff that plagued the United States today, I don't have to worry about. I don't have to worry about being shot, you know, pulling into the wrong driveway or ringing the wrong doorbell. I don't even have to be worried about someone calling me nigger. I'm chuckling because I have one friend who does, and he's an ex-retired New York police officer. But be that as it may, this is Gerard, Black in the Philippines with the truth. Remember, dreams are nothing more than plans awaiting action. Never disrespect the other, always pull someone up. And sometimes you're the only one to see your vision. And if your vision isn't an utopia, come to the Philippines because it's here waiting for you. And if you're lucky enough to have a woman like Ali Woodson, former lead singer of The Temptations, who wants some, treat her like a lady. And ladies, if you're lucky enough to have a good man like me, I mean that. Peach, never say no. May you live to be 100 and me minus a day, so I'll never know that good people like you have gone away. Make him feel like a king. I will always love you more. And again, Paul, I'm here to dialogue whenever you want to. I'll talk to you later. Peace.